Hello students, my name is Garret Milton and I'm one of the teaching assistants for VPA 2301. And this week's module has everything to do with art for social change, or as I will demonstrate, perhaps another way to understand this style or mode of art is art for social revolution. So what is art for social change? Art for social change is art with a vision and an intentional analysis. It is an artistic or creative cultural practice that may operate in traditional or non-traditional mediums, modes, or disciplines. Art with a vision impacts people in many ways. It can raise consciousness, alter how we think about ourselves, our society, or our culture, create a vision of a more just world, be a tool or strategy for organizing and movement building, preserve or reclaim traditional cultural practices using your artistic practice as a form of resistance or empowerment, create space for expression and build a sense of community, challenge racism, classism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, ageism, ableism, or other oppressive systems, question mainstream culture and beliefs, shift or transform the perception of power and or privilege and the dynamics associated with justice, equality, and or accountability. Value restorative justice practices focused on strengthening communities. Engage and utilize a reciprocal process where there is teaching and learning simultaneously, and the consent for engagement is mutual, as is the benefit for yourself as an artist and the community you are engaging. So at any point during those bullets, you realized, or even in the setup definition, that, this sounds oddly applicable to just art in general. Well, I would say you're not wrong in thinking that. And I would take it a step further and say, of course, good art for social change, good, right, is a sticky word, but good art for social change certainly considers or invites a number of these elements to the party. But I would also say most art in general carries with it a process of revolution or change, right? There is this sort of communicative aspect, I think, embedded in most art, whether that's responding locally to an issue within a community, exercising some passionate sort of individualistic concern or philosophical belief, all the way up to trying to encapsulate and honor an entire state of people or a country of peoples. So let's keep those connective tissues in mind as we continue through this lecture, especially this idea with change and revolution and how closely these two things may be related. So how? These are just some quick hits or quick ways that the art for social change can be programmed or disseminated and made available to any sort of given community or society. And we see this through outreach and engagement initiatives, community and recreational centers, public library events, interpretive gallery spaces, art festivals, summer arts education programs, after-school enrichment groups, theater training workshops, and what I will share personally from my own, research and practice, prison arts programming. And these are just, half a dozen or so ways that this kind of style of art or engagement of art can be facilitated. So why the hang up on revolution? Well, I'm a writer, I'm a nerd about words, so I always find it best practice for my own sanity and understanding to squint at not only what the words mean that we tend to use literally, but where they come from and maybe how they came to be etymologically. So let's look at revolution and why maybe I think an appropriate rebranding of art for social change, at least to maybe make it sound a bit more tough or to be taken seriously, could be art for social revolution. And this is what Merriam-Webster has to say about getting at the aboutness of revolution. A sudden, radical, or complete change. And you'll notice some teal colored words that have also been underlined, which I find pertinent to this connection that I'm trying to demonstrate. B, a fundamental change in political organization, especially the overthrow or renunciation of one government or ruler and the substitution of another by the governed. C, activity or movement designed to effect fundamental changes in the socioeconomic situation. D, a fundamental change in the way of thinking about or visualizing something, a change of paradigm. And then E, a changeover in use or preference, especially in technology. So it would seem as if change and revolution, right? In this instance, and on our understanding of revolution, there are 6 instances of the word change used in just 5 iterations of possible definitions. And perhaps a quote that has always stuck with me personally, whether it be interacting or engaging with art for social change and the programming of arts-based applications for social change, I think of this Albert Camus quote. And Albert Camus was a French philosopher and writer, and he says in his 1951 book, The Rebel, about art and society and the correlation, I think, between art and revolution. He says, but art and society, creation and revolution, must rediscover the source of rebellion, where refusal and acceptance in the unique and the universal, the individual and history balance each other in a condition of the most acute tension. So it would seem as if art in and of itself is very fertile soil for us to use or to plant, to continue with the soil metaphor, to plant an orchard or a garden that is ripe for social revolution, that can be used, art can be used as a weapon to disrupt, to renegotiate, and to dismantle oppressive systems, and to sort of be this weapon that slices through some of that tension within a given society. So here's some ways that theater, right? So we'll narrow our focus here a bit and we'll come back to my home discipline, or field rather, of theater. And this is some ways that theater has programmed its own aspects of revolution. And these are 3 different types of theater. First, we have what is called epic theater. And this style of theater gained popularity really kind of around the bubble of the both world wars. And the most famous practitioner of this style of theater was a man named Bertolt Brecht. He was a German playwright and theater director. And this style of theater was all about warning audiences of the forces, in particular Bertolt Brecht's, but this style in general wanted to acknowledge that we are in a theater. We don't want to cover that up or lose sight of that. And at some point in the evening, I think the best hope is that your audiences would be made aware that they have just been instructed of some invisible force that was maybe dominating them or controlling their lives, and B, maybe equipping them with some tactics or strategies on how to combat these systems. So epic theater is a style of theater that warns audiences of the forces at play within a state or governing body that often dictates the lives, realities, and experiences of those it governs, sometimes unjustly so, while also providing or suggesting possible solutions to correct these systems. And forum theater comes from a theater of the oppressed, invented by theater practitioner and theorist Augusta Boal. And there are a handful of different, or at least a few different styles of theater within the theater of the oppressed, but forum theater involves devising and staging dramatic happenings that often address social and or political concerns. And this form of theater invites audience members, or spec actors, a blend of spectator and actor, to join the performance and act out their own opinions or solutions to often complicated problems. And this style of theater directly influences this next one, which has been gaining in popularity, especially in the last decade, something called playback theater. And it's similar to forum theater, but with more space for improvisation and feedback. And this style of theater is often brought into classrooms, recreational centers, and other found spaces within a community, and often focuses on dramatizing and working through specific issues or grievances within that community. So I think what we see here is epic theater, right? A sort of narrowing of the focus through the ages. For starting with epic theater, and then we're getting to forum theater, and then we're now sort of at playback theater methods. I think we can see issues, right? Large state issues becoming maybe, boiled down to specific regions within that state, or cities and towns within that state. And then I think we can come all the way down to the communal, right? Issues or grievances within communities. So how do we program the revolution? Well, this is just one way in which I have interacted or have attempted to program some revolution within the arts. And I mentioned this earlier in the beginning of this lecture, this idea of prison arts programming. And the Justice Arts Coalition defines prison arts programming as arts-based workshops, projects, and courses offered in prisons, jails, juvenile detention centers, reentry, restorative justice, or diversion programs. Possible art forms include creative writing, poetry, visual art, dance, drama, and music. Yoga, meditation, and horticulture may also be considered prison arts programs. All of these art forms may also be combined into multidisciplinary art programs. And the inspiration behind a bit of my own research and practice that I'm going to share with you just here in a few moments was this particular piece of information published in American Theater. And that the reality is that there are only 32 registered prison theater arts programs in America. And less than 1/4 of these programs specialize in or emphasize playwriting or new to play development, both disciplines that I would consider my home disciplines as the primary discipline. So this issue of scarcity kind of, raised my alarms. And I wondered, I wonder what I can do then to shine a light on this scarcity, but also what I can do to be some sort of change or a catalyst for some kind of revolution within this broken system. So this project is called Reconstructing, and validating the life worlds of incarcerated individuals, a new dramaturgy for prison arts education programming. This arts-based practice initiative proposes the benefits of a new psychoanalytical dramaturgy of playwriting practice and new play development when considering the physical, mental, and emotional life worlds of incarcerated individuals. This project thesis asserts a restorative and validating connection between customized playwriting exercises, tactics, and prompts in the resulting autoethnographic explorations and expressions of an incarcerated individual's wants and needs. By better understanding the concerns, obsessions, and needs of incarcerated individuals, expressed through dramaturgical filters of imaginative yet confessional storytelling, the potential exists for alternative metrics and models of psychiatric evaluation, rehabilitative programming, and a higher quality life world for the vulnerable and exploited individuals who are often traumatized and defined by the heterotopias of prisons. So some of the objectives of this project would be to draw attention, as I mentioned just a moment ago, this issue of scarcity, right? And the underutilization of playwriting programs within the American carceral system. And by comparing the new plays and playwriting expressions of incarcerated individuals, recurring patterns emerge, such as similar or overlapping subconscious opinions, conscious wants and needs, and philosophical beliefs. By using playwriting and dramaturgy in this manner, multiple opportunities and applications for prison reform and prison arts programming reveal themselves, especially when considering the restorative, validating, and rehabilitative powers thereof. One of the applications would be to decode these plays and creative writing exercises using methods of behavioral psychology and psychoanalysis, which may result in clues on how to improve the lived experiences and self-esteem of incarcerated individuals. Another objective is to identify common themes or subject material that may prove valuable in correlating and developing appropriate curriculum across a wider network of programming. This application could result in designing art, education, and rehabilitative programs that incentivize healthy and positive behaviors while also decreasing recidivism rates. This project will consider case studies related to the loss of individuality, identity, and memory of incarcerated individuals as a response to the violent and dehumanizing environments frequently constructed within prisons. A new dramaturgy designed with these factors in mind allows for us and encourages the exploration and expression of world building and personhood from incarcerated individuals. And dramaturgy, I know I've now said that word maybe a few times, is just a fancy word for either one who deconstructs or squints at how plays are assembled and what they are saying, but also it can be used to describe someone who builds or puts together plays, i.e. a playwright. Next, the recalling of who they are. So this is some of the process, right? Where they come from, where they are, and where they want to be. Then next comes the gradual assembly of these unique lived experiences, desires, and dispositions. These testimonial portholes that seem to reveal the innermost physical, mental, and emotional wants and needs of incarcerated peoples. I'm going to share an example from, sort of data on the floor, data, from the ground floor of what this arts-based project and outreach looks like. So we'll call this example Jimmy. And this example demonstrates playwriting as a tool to explore and express the experiences, desires, and concerns of incarcerated individuals through the filter of imaginative distance, of fictitious anonymity for the purposes of security and confidentiality. This playwright gives his protagonist, Jimmy, similar physical behavior and dialogue related to his own concerns about dying while in prison. So this example that I'm about to share was written by someone who is will be incarcerated potentially for life. And during our workshop sessions, pre-COVID, this individual would also, make it a habit behaviorally to rub their head just like this. And when they were talking through things or resting here on the top of their head. And we see immediately in the stage direction here that he is giving the same trait or aspect of their own behavior to this character named Jimmy. And Jimmy rubs his hands over his head, thinking, right? He says, damn, I don't want to die like this. I haven't flew in an airplane, went gambling in Las Vegas, hell, I never brought my mother diamonds, took my kids on vacation, or cooked them dinner. I can't die like this. I don't want to die like this. I will also share personal information about this individual that they did reveal also throughout these workshops, that they have never taken their 2 kids on vacation or cook them dinner. So I know I have access to that information, and now you do too, but it doesn't take much squinting or head scratching to see the similarities that they have now injected from their own personal lived experience in life through this sort of dramaturgical or dramatic filtering or distance, using character and drama as a tool to express these concerns and desires. And we'll take a look here about midway down some of the significance, still tracking the example just shown of Jimmy. So one way to apply these methods of dramaturgical autoethnography is to consider implementing an education program that would involve learning to cook, and more specifically, that which would allow incarcerated peoples the opportunity to cook and send meals to family members outside of the prison walls. Additionally, also mined from our character of Jimmy, this second bullet from the bottom, could be allowing low-risk incarcerated peoples to partake in state-observed field trips with immediate family members. So day trips to enjoy a meal together, to go out to a park together with supervision, of course. And we know these resources exist, and they're often used to exploit incarcerated people's labor. We've probably all seen, workers with the orange reflective vests or the orange jumpsuits with a police vehicle monitoring them as they clean up trash and litter on the side of a road or down in the ditches or berms off a highway. So if they can spend a day or half a day doing these sorts of activities, then I'm going to argue they could also find a way to use those same resources and aimed at rehabilitative and restorative measures. In closing, what does your revolution look like? So to take a brief moment at the end of this lecture and reflect on the following prompts as they relate to art for social change. What are some other examples that maybe I didn't mention? And there are numerous. What are some other benefits that you can think of that would be a direct result from either artistry of social change or art for social change, or rather arts-based programming for social change? And maybe more importantly, to reflect on suggestions for other arts-based programming. And if your discipline or home field or major has nothing to do with art, then how might you use what you are learning and absorbing now to program and to bring change or revolution wherever you sort of spot or see a need for such change or revolution? Thank you all. Take care. I hope this was helpful.